Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to the podcast. I'm really delighted about our sponsored episode series. And today we have Avi Pinsky from Israel, and he is the founder of Penske Consulting. And he helps business owners grow and scale their businesses. For those of you listening, the doctor, lawyer, dentist, accountants, engineers, if your business relies on you or falls apart without you, you don't have enough cash, or you don't know what is and what isn't working in your business, he's the guy for today. Really happy to have him on. Thanks so much for sponsoring the episode. And so, Avi, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Really excited to be here.
Yeah. And briefly introduce yourself. And I'm excited to dive into your business and help clients learn more about it.
So, Avi Pinsky Consulting, I look at myself as a business finance doctor. I make sure that your business gets and stays healthy. What is a healthy business? It's one that's growing, it's one that's profitable, and it's one that's producing consistent positive cash flow that you can then use to fund your lifestyle, pay your bills, pay your mortgage, pay for your car, your tuitions, whatever it is that you need. People start a business for a reason. It's usually a financial reason. There may be a bigger why involved, but if the finances aren't there, that why goes away very quickly. So I want to make sure that your business can both fund your lifestyle and also accomplish that why as to why you started it and what your goals are, what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. Yeah, they say in business, money, cash flow, it's like the lifeblood. It revolves around everything. So, in people that say money is not important are living under a stone. So, business, like, talk about your client avatar, your ideal client. Who comes to you to work with you, and what are the problems are they trying to solve? What are they frustrated with? What are they trying to achieve?
So it's oftentimes a lack of knowing where to focus on a business, right? Because when you're the business owner, you're oftentimes wearing all of the hats. You're certainly wearing too many of them. Sometimes you're wearing all of them. And usually you end up wearing ones that you didn't envision yourself wearing and you don't enjoy wearing. So you need to figure out what's the area of the business where you should focus your energy and be able to focus your efforts in growing the business. What things do you enjoy doing and what things can you delegate? And which things can you really kind of leave on the back burner? Because maybe they're not so important, or maybe it's not something that you can do anything about anyway. Or even if you are able to improve that area of the business, maybe it won't have as big of an impact as you thought it would. So I help you look at the data, look at the actual numbers, the financials, and come with hard information, concrete information that's going to tell you this is the lever that you have to pull if you're trying to grow the business and meet certain goals. And these other levers, not to say that they're not important, not to say that we won't get to them eventually, but they're not necessarily the things that you want to be focusing on now, right? So if I'm coming to a doctor, I'm saying, doctor, I'm overweight, I'm unhealthy, I'm not able to play with my kids, whatever. So he's going to do an examination, take a urine sample, take blood tests, he's going to do all these different types of physical tests. And he's going to say, okay, so the things that you have to focus on are X, Y, and Z in your diet, A, B, and C in your exercise. And it could be that as you get healthier and get fitter, so maybe you want to go from being obese to being Mr. Olympia. So you can't just go there overnight, start trying to turn your whole life upside down and fix everything all at once, right? There's a smart way to do things. So I do the same thing with a business. You have to look at the business as a machine or as a body that's falling apart to an extent if it's not working, right? If it's not providing the cash flow that you need to be able to take out of it. So something is wrong with the machine, something's wrong with the health of the body. And if you're going to want to improve it, you're going to have to do it systematically. You have to do it based on data, right? You're going to have to look at those blood tests, look at that urine test. You can't just say, well, I think I'm going to fix everything all at once. It doesn't work that way. And it's probably just going to fall apart even further.
Yeah. And we'll talk about later on in the conversation, we'll talk about client successes and how you've helped a lot of clients, doctors included. And for example, doctors, lawyers, dentists, all these high income professionals, really their time is what's scarce. And so when they come to you, what are they like? What are they doing wrong? What's the number one thing you see these high income professionals are running this hamster wheel? They're out of shape, they're unhealthy, they're always trying to make that next. What are they doing wrong? What's the number one thing?
So it goes back to focus again, right? That they're constantly putting out fires everywhere and everything is coming on their heads and they don't really know what's the important things that they should be focusing on. They're running based on a whim. They're running based on things that are just the squeakiest wheel. and they don't really know which ones deserve their attention. Because like you said, their time is the premium, right? You're talking about somebody who's a very skilled professional, they're very good at the operations of the business. But now once they get into being the business owner and running the business, it's a completely different skill set, which you don't learn in medical school. You don't learn in law school how to run a law practice, right? So it's a completely different animal that you're now trying to take. And so oftentimes they don't have the skill set to deal with that, with the issues that are now coming to them, and they don't really know where to turn to. For me, it's oftentimes financial issues that are coming up that say, okay, we got to handle this. That's usually what's bringing them to my door and saying, we need help.
Yeah.
Oftentimes they have a bookkeeper, they have an accountant, and they have a financial professional that's helping them in their business. But unfortunately, those people are not, I don't want to say they're not equipped, because I am an accountant by training. That's where my equipment and my tools come from. But they don't have the bandwidth to focus on those types of questions. Their sole focus is on the past, on reporting, on compliance. They're not helping the business owner think about the future, how to have a brighter future, how to have a more healthy future. So while they're focused on the past, that's not what the business owner should be thinking about. Right? It's like looking at you drive looking at your view mirror. You glance at it occasionally to get the information on how do I move forward? And is it safe to move forward? What happened behind me? Maybe is there a car that's speeding up on my right side and I can't change lanes there? So you're getting information there to decide how you're going to move forward. But if you're just living in the past, like most accountants, bookkeepers, CPAs are doing, that's not helping the business owner. Right? And so they need somebody who can help them translate the past and the data that's there into actions towards the future. So what should I do differently going forward?
Yeah. I know I have these weekly lunches with friends and colleagues. We just catch up, and he's a business owner, he's an entrepreneur, and he was describing this situation last year where basically for the first couple of years he was struggling to get product market fit and get his sales, and then he finally got that dialed in, and he's getting a couple million in sales and revenue. And come time, he's got to pay the IRS, pay the taxes, and there's not enough to pay the IRS. So what's going on when you have like all this sales and revenue and growth, but you struggle to pay your employees, or like something breaks down, you need to fix it, or going on there?
Yeah, so you've hit the nail on the head for most businesses where their problems lie and why their accountants are not the ones that are really helping them. The statements that you're getting from your accountant are, I don't want to say pointless, but for you, if you don't understand how to use them properly, you can have the most amazing, wonderful equipment in your tool bag, but if you don't know how to use it, so it's just a big lump of metal that's taking up space in your drawers, right? So you need to know how to use it. And unfortunately, they're not built for business owners to make the right decisions. They're built for accountants to be used by accountants. And so you have to figure out how to translate that into actionable information for you. What you're describing is primarily the difference between revenue, profit, and cash flow. And revenue, they say revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, but cash is king. The revenue and the profit side of things is oftentimes very, I don't want to just say it's opinion or theory, but that kind of is what it is. There are ways to move around numbers where you can change that number, and you could have maybe 10 different accountants looking at the same business. They can come up with different revenue, different profit numbers. The cash flow is very much concrete. It's what are you going to have in the bank, and how did it get in the bank, and how did the money come out of the bank? So that there's very little opinion there. Cash is very much a concrete thing. What happened in the business that's going to cause the issues with the cash, right? And ultimately, that is the biggest issue that business owners run into, is they run out of cash. They have to pay their bills, and they haven't necessarily got paid yet. Especially if you're talking about doctors with an insurance issue. If you're charging your insurance company and they're not paying you for a month, 2, 3, 4 months down the line, you have a very big problem on how to pay your bills, because you spent money on your nurses, your staff, your admin, all the equipment, all the consumables that you use to service your patients. And you use that up 4 months ago. You're not getting paid by the insurance company until months later. Who's covering that gap? Right. So you need to know, how does the revenue how does it translate into profit, right? To make sure that you're actually making money, that you're charging enough for your services. And then what's the cause for the difference between the profit and the cash flow. When I go to my bank and I say, okay, I made $1 million last year, can I withdraw 100,000? And they say, we don't see $1 million in your bank account this year. Sorry. So why did that happen? Is your accountant explaining that to you? Is your bookkeeper explaining to you? They could. They have the tools for it. They don't necessarily have the bandwidth for it. So you need to get yourself an education, learn a little bit about it in the basics, or get some sort of CFO who's helping you look into the future and see those problems as they arise. If you have the right CFO who's giving you the right tools and giving you the right types of reports, you can see cash flow issues arising weeks in advance, if not months in advance. So make sure that you're keeping an eye on that so that you don't run into those issues and you're not struggling the last minute to make payroll or to pay your vendors or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there was a really great book recommended to me from my accountant, was Profit First, and basically allocating, setting aside, paying yourself first, paying your employees, setting aside for taxes, these things. And so that's really cash flow management. Yeah. Another question quite commonly is there's, he was describing to me the situation where it's like he can't find good people, like, because you mentioned CFO and then, or like just admin, and like admin, they're late or they have issues with their significant others. They get sick, they have kids, or just like the C employees, he's got to fire them. And then the A employees, they go and pursue their other things. So he's always in constant, like he was describing this, he quote said, there's nobody wants to work these days. So what's going on there?
I think it's just a generational thing. You got to find the right employees. And oftentimes, unfortunately, replacing an employee can be more expensive than keeping an employee. Sometimes they have you around the neck and in a bind if they ask for a raise. If it's a really good employee, you got to really think, what's it going to cost me to replace them? And am I going to find somebody who can really fill their shoes? Definitely, again, another issue where an analysis of the numbers can be very helpful. Try to figure out, what does somebody in this position typically make? What can I reasonably expect to pay for someone else who's gonna have to fill in this role? And then the cost of the time that it takes to train them, who's going to take over the work while that training is going on. Some sort of, again, an analysis of, is it worth paying this person more in order to keep them on, if you are able to find that good person. Another thing is getting good recruiters so that you can make sure that you are getting the right person in the door, right? Not committing to somebody who's a maybe, because you're going to have a big expense for that maybe, which might cause you more pain down the road, right? The wrong secretary can unfortunately ruin things. It's not just a matter of, are they a net positive, but make sure they're not a net negative. I have a client who I had a client who was dealing with an issue like this, and the person who was doing the sales was not the best at the job. And the question was, can we shift the sales over to someone else? Can we keep this person doing maybe the intro call of clients? And there was a concern there. If she's going to have that intro call, pre-vet them before it gets to the actual salesperson, so the salesperson isn't spending half their day on pointless phone calls, do I have to worry about that first person maybe pushing away proper leads and qualified leads that are now outside of the pipeline because they said the wrong thing? So you have to look at who's going to do it right and make sure that who I have in there isn't doing it wrong, that's going to cause damage to my business down the road.
Interesting. I have a good friend as well, and he's in the software. He's a software entrepreneur, and he created this really robust platform. And basically, his goal was to be a solopreneur, like a business owner, but have 0 employees. He automate everything, like use Zapier and everything. And he was describing his goal was to have an employee-less company using software and AI. So where do you think AI is headed in this dilemma where just basically hiring and just this really ultra competitive business environment? Where do you see AI in this playing into all of this?
Yeah, I see AI as a very useful tool, but it's a tool. It's not a person, right? If you're in the medical field, there's such a thing as bedside manner, and AI doesn't have bedside manner. If you're a lawyer and there's going to be certain things that are going to come up that are going to require tact. And at least where it is now, I'm not an AI expert. I don't know where things are going in 10, 20 years. Maybe it'll be different then. But from what I'm seeing now, it's a useful tool. It can cut out on a lot of the grunt work, right? Maybe preparing certain tax returns for the accounting people, maybe doing some sort of book reporting for the bookkeepers, analyzing blood tests and urine tests and drawing up a rough draft of contracts. But it makes mistakes. It needs somebody to look over these things and do a sanity check. You can't rely on it 100%. And at the same time, like I said, it's also missing that personal touch. And as much as you might think your clients are just happy with the results, everybody wants a personal touch to some extent, some more than others. But we're all people. Everybody craves that connection to an extent. So you can't completely get rid of that. I don't see it completely removing jobs. At least not at this point. But it can, like I said, it can remove a lot of the grunt work, a lot of the first draft of things and doing a first once over, but it still needs a sanity check at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, no, because I spent the summer in San Francisco and they've got like Waymo, and even like Waymo's like driverless cars are becoming more prevalent than Ubers, and they're becoming cheaper than Ubers. And we're this day and age where you're going to have physical AI, or our business owner is going to just create a bunch of AI avatars and custom GPTs and AI bots. So that's very interesting to hear your thoughts. Talk about, yeah. Oh, go ahead. I know you had a thought.
Even in my work also, I see that it makes mistakes. And I'm dealing with things that have been universal for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and concepts that are widely exposed out there on the internet that seemingly ChatGPT should be able to analyze and do a semi-decent job of. And I network with other lawyers and other professionals like that, and they find mistakes in the contracts and basic mistakes. I actually have a friend in the AI space who told me once, ask ChatGPT how many R's are in the word strawberry and see what it comes up with. So it is very limited. I don't know if the newest version is still making the mistake saying that there's only two, but at least a few months ago when we were talking about it counted 2 R's in the word strawberry. Are you really going to count on that type of knowledge to write up your contracts and then just send it out to a client? Like, that's got your firm's name on it. You got to proofread that. You need a person there with an actual brain to go over things.
Yeah. So to round it out, talk about some of your client successes. I know you've helped a lot of doctors, and how you can help clients listening to this if they were interested in booking a call, scheduling a free consultation, etc.
Yeah. So if you are interested in a free consultation, you can go to my website, PenskeConsulting.com. There's plenty of links there to take you to the scheduling page. I also have a free download, an Excel download that's very simple to understand, very easy to use. I call it my Pinske's Prosperity Playbook. So you can click at the top there for the Prosperity Playbook and download that Excel. What I'm helping people do is set their goals with their business, set numerical financial goals that are easy to understand and easy to find the path forward towards meeting those goals. A lot of times if you say, I want to grow my business, what does that mean? How do you know when you've gotten there? What's your path forward? Which levers do you have to pull? Which actions do you have to take in order to actually meet those goals and those targets? Are these 5-year goals, 10-year goals, 6-month goals? Right? I help people set those goals, set a realistic timeline, and set a path forward towards achieving them. And again, you can use that Excel, try to do it yourself, see if that's helpful in putting down on paper, just where do you see yourself going? Because if it's not there, if you don't have a visual representation of it, you don't actually know how to get there, you don't see the path, it's very hard to get there. So that's what I help people do, find those right levers to pull at the right times that they could get there.
Interesting. And how does being based in Israel change with any regulations if clients, American-based clients or Canadian or whatever, come and work with you? Does being based in Israel change anything?
Yes, I have a US CPA license. It doesn't, as far as I'm aware, it doesn't change anything. I thrive at night and in the afternoon. So the time zone difference is like perfect for me. I work in New York time. Dinner for me here is roughly the same time as lunch over there. So it really works out perfectly for my schedule and my internal clock. What I'm dealing with is not really legal based. Right?
Uh-huh.
I'm dealing with how to understand the finances of your business. Right?
Ah.
And that's a universal language. Every business has assets, liabilities, and equity. Every business has revenues and expenses. And
Yeah.
that is a universal language across all countries, all locales, all industries, all sizes. Nothing here is unique to the US, to Canada, to Israel. It's all universal concepts that we're dealing with.
Yeah, excellent point. And I really enjoyed talking with you. I love your vibe and all of the concepts. And for all the audience, be sure to check out Avi's resources. Will be in the show notes. This is a sponsored episode, though, so do your due diligence. And thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I had a great time.